6 o'clock. So I'll let it start going live first.
Yeah, it just turned 6 on mine. Is David here?
I see his assistant, so I'll let her in.
So, just so everyone knows, David has another engagement at 6:30. So when we open, instead of doing the minutes of advisory bodies, I'm going to just do the opening, and then I'll go to David, and then we'll go back to the other stuff when he's gone. So I wanted to make sure we had enough time for questions and answers.
Your worship, can I ask we go as far as disclosures? Because we need to adopt the agenda and do the disclosures, and then we can bounce down.
Yep, that'd be great.
Okay. I'm about to hit record, sir.
Thank you very much.
We are recording, and I believe MPP Piccini is just joining us right now.
Okay. In which case, I'll call the meeting to order at 6:01 p.m. And this council meeting is being held by electronic participation pursuant to the municipality's procedural bylaw number 2020-020 as amended, and section 238 3.1 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended. The meeting will be live streamed on the municipality's meeting portal and YouTube channel. The video recording will be uploaded to the Municipality of Trent Hill's website following the meeting. At this time, I'll do the adoption of the agenda. Be it resolved that the agenda for the council meeting of April the 6th, 2021 be received and adopted. Mover and seconder, please. Moved by Rick, seconded by Rose. Call the question, please, Doug.
Councillor English?
Yes.
Councillor Kelleher McLennan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Metcalf?
Yes.
Councillor Redden?
Yes.
Councillor Tully?
Yes.
Councillor Bratney?
Yes.
Mayor Crate?
Yes.
Carried by 7, your worship.
Thank you. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest?
Your worship, I would like to declare on 9F the staff report with the Rotary Club and the canteen. And I've submitted a form.
We'll deal with that when we get there. At this time, normally we would do some pass some minutes, but tonight we have a special guest. We have our MPP David Piccini to give us an update on the 2021 budget, and he has another engagement, so I'm going to give him as much time as possible and turn it over to you, David.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, Mayor Crate. Appreciate the opportunity to join Council today, and really I'll just touch briefly on a couple key elements of the budget, and really just I'm here to answer questions and just have a discussion with all of you on priorities of the municipality and any issues. I know I've dealt with many of you on one-offs, on one-on-ones, I should say, over the past number of weeks, which has been very much appreciated, and appreciate the emails. But this is a great opportunity just to highlight our budget, some of the key measures in there, and some of the things I'm excited about for our community, and answer any questions going forward. So I know obviously with COVID-19, it's very difficult to look at anything beyond the very real challenges we face as a country, as a province, and as a community with COVID-19, and the very difficult decisions all levels of government have had to make as a result. But I very much draw my hope and optimism in the collective efforts of members of our community, like obviously Trent Hill's Fire Chief and others who've stood on their head, the hospital, to really support our frontline workers, to support our community, to stand up mass vaccination clinics, and protect the health and well-being of our people. And that's really what this budget is about. It's about protecting our economy and protecting our health and well-being. So a couple of things I just wanted to highlight: the Regional Opportunities Tax Investment Credit, which is an important piece to attract investment outside the GTHA. That's a refundable corporate income tax credit for expenditures between $50,000 and $500,000. and that's investments that come to fruition in this fiscal year. So it's a really great tool to just add to those looking at setting up a business, manufacturing, or elsewhere here in our community. So if you think of areas like the former Dart plant and others, any sort of expenditure associated with increased investments in our communities will be a corporate tax credit available for those companies. So just yet another reason to invest in rural Ontario. That's a 20% credit. So that's a big piece that we've heard, and really to try and guide investments into areas like ours. And you'll notice the boundary starts with Northumberland. So it's really important that as people look east, it starts right here in Northumberland. In addition, jobs training tax credit. Obviously, I've spoken with a number of constituents looking at where to go with a career. COVID-19 has forced many to look at augmenting, going online, looking at growing their online credentials, but that's also forced very real discussions internally in small mom and pop shops and sole proprietors and small businesses. And how do we do that? And with a great number of retirees and some great retirees who've started small businesses in our community, there's been very real discussions. I think even to my own dad, a small business owner who needed a bit of help going online. We've grown Digital Main Street program. We've expanded the job training tax credit here in the province of Ontario. That's a 50% eligible expense for 2021. The maximum credit is $2,000. So if you look to someone incurring a cost of a $2,000 course to increase online credentials, support in comms and growing an online platform, that would be fully covered with this tax credit. Eligible expenses include fees paid to obviously eligible education institutions, certain bodies for occupational, trade, or professional examination. That's a big piece in our government's efforts to expand skilled trades as well. So occupational skills courses, occupational trade, professional exams, that's another piece. And, while I'm on the trades piece, enhanced benefits for tools as well for young journey persons was expanded on this budget as well. So there's just, that training tax credit piece was, I think, an important one to highlight. The care tax credit, we know, obviously, childcare is a ever growing and increasing cost. So not only has the government expanded the number of childcare spaces, you think to recent local examples, I know not directly in the backyard of Campbellford or Hastings, but we think to expanded announcements in communities like Grafton, in Brighton, and a number of others where we're expanding the number of childcare spaces. But to give choice to parents and families, the childcare access and relief from expenses, that's a tax credit which is going to benefit an estimated 300,000 Ontarians, and will be a one-time top-up for their tax credit. And that's up to 20% of 2021 credit entitlements. And so, your average family will receive about $1,500 back on average with that support. The tourism and hospitality sector, Ontario Small Business Support Grant, we've been working with quite a number. I mean, I look here to Counsel. I was on the horn with a number of local businesses. I know Rick, it's close to home, and we've been speaking about that specific support grant and how it can support our small businesses. That's been doubled in the budget so if you were eligible for the first Ontario Small Business Support Grant, whatever you receive, no applications, no anything, you'll just receive that again in supports. And that's not a loan, that's a grant, so you don't have to pay it back. That's helped a lot of our businesses stay afloat. We're dealing with I proactively reached out to local businesses because I know that not everyone joins their chambers. Our chambers have been tremendous support mechanisms throughout this, identifying gaps and deficiencies in programs, helping us work and zero in on businesses that need support. So that Ontario Small Business Support Grant has been doubled. We're tracking in my office right now about 35 businesses that are dealing with things like banking errors, issues with their name. I think to to other local businesses, events and hospitality spaces. We're trying to deal with business numbers. So we're still addressing that. The ministry's got a SWAT team to identify those businesses. We're working actively, and as I said, tracking about 35 businesses right now to try and address their issues. Understanding the challenges that B&Bs in particular, and based on direct feedback from constituents, we've grown the Tourism and Hospitality Small Business Support Grant. That's $100 million in one-time funding that's going to flow through to our many, I think to travel agencies, motels, hotels, B&Bs, hunting, fishing camps, RV, campgrounds, etc. So we understood that there was some gaps there and acted on that in the latest budget. So again, there are certain criteria, but my office is always here to help and walk folks through that process. The Community Building Fund, again, this is a challenge I'm issuing to all of you. If you can think of non-for-profits, sports clubs in the community that would benefit, there's two fundings. It's a total cumulative investment of $105 million. That's a brand new funding envelope through Trillium. And that is targeting organizations for operating and capital expenditures. So operating, thinking, I think to many, for example, non-for-profits that support seniors locally that have taken their programming online. I think to, a great local example is Critical Mass that does some work while based out of Port Hope. They do work countywide, and they've been very successful in those grant applications. And they've helped pivot online because arts, culture, tourism, our heritage, what makes our community unique doesn't change. We're pivoting some of that programming online, and this funding's helping them. In addition, there's a capital stream, which is coming soon when we think to, recovery post-COVID, stimulating our economy, infrastructure is going to be key. So there's an important capital stream there. So again, for minor hockey, for soccer, for other things, please, I look forward for your suggestions there on what we can do. And my office is working. We have dedicated technical briefings for organizations to help them, because I really feel strongly this isn't about just your Port Hopes, your Coburgs. This has got to be for our real rural communities, Brighton, Hastings, Campbellford. And so I'm really making a point and really asking you to support me in that with local organizations, because I know not everyone has a city slicker grant writer to write their grants and needs support. So our office is here to help that. Just briefly on our health, you'll recall when we first came to office, obviously some significant challenges with both of our local hospitals and underfunding, while investing $5 million into Campbellford Memorial and fixing the small and medium-sized funding formula, which gave a bit of breathing room for our hospitals. In this budget was announced $1.8 billion in funding to support with deferred or delayed surgeries, lost revenue for hospitals. We can expect Campbellford Memorial to benefit from that. And we're now working with the hospital on identifying what that cumulative sum total will be. But the point being, the province has earmarked the funds, has said to our small and medium hospitals, we're going to work with you on this, and expect more announcements coming this summer on that piece. While I am on that, obviously I'm actively working with our hospital on a revised submission. No submission ever actually reached the ministry for redeveloped campus of care model. But with the pivot to Ontario Health Teams, with the increased investments into healthcare in our community, we're now in a very strong position where I'm working actively with Varouche, who we're all very sad to see retiring, but the whole team at CMH and the board on redevelopment. And that's very much a very clear commitment I've made to that group, and a very new commitment that I've made as MPP in our government in addressing some of the inequities in rural Ontario. And I'm very excited about that trajectory. It's going to be an uphill battle. It's going to be a significant investment, and we're working together as a community to highlight the investments that we need in Campbellford and in Trent Hill's broader community. On that too, community paramedicine, allowing our professionals to do their emergency, rather in a non-emergency setting, working with seniors aging in place. There was the 20% tax benefit to support seniors aging in place with construction. I brought the premier to Living Well, for example, in Coburg. It's a great local small business in Peterborough and also here in our community, catering towards helping seniors age in place with ramps, with additional barriers there. We've expanded seniors programming into our municipalities. And I know that this community, more so than anyone, deserves a brand new recreation and wellness center. I know for 15 years you've been advocating for that. You've got an ally in this province, an ally in the Premier and in me to get that done. And I know that many are very keen on that. So more to come on that soon. So we're very much aware of the recreation needs in Campbellford. In closing, I would just say as well for agriculture, obviously the CAP program has been used by our abattoirs, our processing capacities to help grow that. We've also I've been an advocate internally as well to flow through some of the money in the agri-stability program over into the risk management program that I know a lot of our farmers have advocated for, because agriculture is a real, the backbone of our economy here in rural Ontario. So there's that piece. But as always, as we respond, I think it's about what we want our community to look like. That means investments in recreation and wellness. That means investments into our healthcare system to help people age in place, and not just mindless downstream investments, upstream, help keeping seniors in their home, keeping them engaged through increased programming, and supporting them aging in place. So those are just some of the things in the budget, but happy to address in greater depth anything. And as always, I'm just a phone call away if there's anything that I can do to continue to support this municipality. And I appreciate the opportunity, Mayor Crate, for having me today, and council and staff. Appreciate the opportunity.
Well, thank you very much, David. So I'll open the floor for questions. Anyone? Rick, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Piccini, for joining us here tonight. I had a quick question for you. The non-for-profits grants that you mentioned about, is this something that our local food banks could apply for?
Yes, they can apply. One thing, Rick, I would mention just as a plug, one of the biggest inhibitors, and I fully admit a barrier from within our own government, was on the initial applications for resilient communities, was there was financial stipulations on audited reports by an external auditor, which made for many non-for-profits, which made it, Dave, they're saying for what we're applying for and the cost to get that external audit, it doesn't make sense. We're not going to apply for a small organization. And I know Paige, who's on the line today, want to give credit where credit's due. Paige is really supported. We're a team. It's, more than just me, but we know, you guys know as well, it takes staff to support, and Paige really championed that in addressing it. And I'm pleased to say that Trillium did address that. We brought that straight to the chair and the minister's office. They have subsequently changed those threshold requirements. So in short, yes, Rick. And in short, I think the biggest barrier I'm witnessing is just a lack of awareness of this programming. It's one thing for me to announce it, to get out on Facebook. I find Facebook is an echo chamber of both people who love you and people who will troll you. So it's just a challenge in getting that out there to the community. So in short, Rick, if there's any that you all are working closely with, or that you've identified that need a bit of encouragement or support, our office is here to do that. And, Paige and myself are here to support them.
Great. Thank you very much.
Michael?
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Mr. Piccini, for coming today. One of our biggest sectors here in Trent Hills is hospitality and tourism. It's our bread and butter up here, and it's been really tough over the last year, and I know you understand that quite well. Small businesses are doing their utmost to follow the safety protocols set out by government, set out by health units, all masked, all gloved, all goggled, trying to stay safe. I will say that Minister McLeod has her work cut out for her in the next little while to help recover that industry. I'd like to make just a quick point. The first and the second lockdown were really, everyone was positive about it, and we're getting into the third, and it's a little harder. Just a quick scenario is the average size of a Costco store is 145,000 square feet. If 90% of that is not used and only 10% is for people, that's 168 people allowed in that store. If we're at 50%, that's 841 people allowed in that store. A personal care small business, say a salon that has 4 chairs and 4 staff members, that's 8 people, all masked, gloved, and goggled. It just feels like sometimes small businesses and small to medium enterprises are getting their feet kicked out from under them. I guess my question is, what and how and when will the provincial government have a recovery plan that doesn't cripple those small businesses at every turn that it seems?
Yeah, I think it's a fair point made, Mike, to be blunt. I mean, I'll be very blunt with you. I don't support a lockdown of small retail, full stop. I don't personally. And I've made my position on this very clear in my own team and elsewhere. So I think capacity limits are a far more effective tool at addressing that. Having said that, we have as a government worked with small businesses to make sure that things like the Ontario Small Business Support Grant, deferred energy costs, deferred property tax, and sorry, not deferred energy costs, I mean cost recovery for energy costs, so that a lot of those fixed costs, I sat through 800 hours of finance committee where we heard from small businesses, and one of their biggest obstacles was on those fixed costs. Those costs and those supports are not available for any of the larger retail stores in our community. I think it is important to note that those larger retail stores also employ residents of our communities and also cater to the needs of residents in our community. Your point, Mike, is one well made. It's not lost on me at all. I understand. And so, we've worked both to communicate the frustrations, I would say, in rural Ontario, and myself, I'm but one of many voices, I would say, around that table to try and channel the concerns faced in rural Ontario. The second piece is on with respect to the tourism and the sector here, that carve out in this budget is very much to zero in on those tourism businesses and to support them in this budget. In addition, the sort of the staycation, difficult to promote in a shutdown, but as we looked, longer term, that opportunity, I'm going to rely on folks like yourself. We're currently designing that program now. So if you have any input into what sort of eligible expenses, and the idea is if I live in GTA or I'm one of the millions of people that live in the GTHA, we want them to come here and when it's safe to do so, to vacation here, to spend their money here. So in terms of making sure that rural Ontario isn't lost in that process, we haven't specifically designed that program and rolled it out yet, because your input's going to be very important. So if you want to make sure, RV campgrounds, other things are included in that, let's have that active discussion now. But on the variant, Mike, I mean, Canada ranks currently 42nd in the world in terms of vaccine distribution. The variant didn't show up here. It didn't get wings. It didn't hop on, hop on a Sea-Doo and come here. The variant came here via people transmission. Premier was very clear in advocating for strict border measures, which didn't happen in this province. Full stop. I don't want to cry over spilled milk. I think a lot more could have been done. That's why the province had our own rapid testing at the border, because quite literally, and to this day, 2 to 3 people come in on a plane with potential variant, many with the variant, and that's what brings it into our community. And when you add that to a slow vaccine rollout off the outset, that's a challenge. Now, again, I don't want to focus on that. The federal government have been great partners. We're working together. A lot more vaccines are coming in, and those vaccines are being administered, or they're being someone has an appointment for that vaccine, and we're continuing to roll it out. So, in short, Mike, your point was well made. I hope some of these measures do support those targeted investments to support small business, and going forward, that any difficult measures are ones that are equitable. This is tough, but we're not out of the woods. This variant is very concerning. It's targeting younger people. It is affecting our ICUs. And, we have, as a government, made significant local investments to expand bed capacity, cognizant of this reality.
Yeah, thank you.
Rosemary?
Having trouble getting unmuted here, Bob. So I'm in the same category as you were earlier. Thank you very much, David, for being here this evening and for working with us. I may have missed it, but was there anything, or is there going to be anything in there for our legions? They're really struggling, and I know you're fully aware of that. But I wasn't able to find much on the legions, and I was wondering if you could kind of help me out there.
Yeah, thanks, Rosemary. I mean, I know I've spoken at length with, Tammy up in Campbellford when I was out doing the sign campaign that local Campbellford Legion did a great job with, I would add. I know there's some very real concerns. I mean, I will say again, I think given veterans are a federal responsibility, I think it's not lost on me that it would be nice to see a national leadership approach for our legions and our veterans. Having said that, the province isn't just going to pass the buck. The Resilient Communities Fund was designed with legions. That's specific, and I will give credit, to folks like Tammy and others locally in Colborne. I think of Coburg Legion as well. Paige can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they were the genesis of that specific audit concern that was addressed. And that's a great, example of, look, I'm not going to have all the answers. So having constituents that aren't afraid to call me up and say, hey, Dave, you're a dingbat, you need to fix this problem. And we will. And I think that's really what democracy is all about. So there's that piece. And anyways, I know legions are eligible for resilient communities and for the expanded community building fund I mentioned. And I'm happy to set up local legions and others with specific technical briefings to support them in writing successful applications.
That's great. Thank you.
Anyone else? Kathy?
Hey, David, thanks very much for coming. And I want to get back a little bit just to your comments around tourism and supporting the municipalities. And as you know, I'm quite an advocate for the conservation authorities who are a key part of what we do in this community and one of the attractions that a lot come from the urban centers to see. And we've been experiencing almost over-tourism, more than we can handle. And tourists that come in many cases expecting us to be a little more sophisticated in the kinds of services that we offer. When you think about our the Gut, Callahan Rapids, even at Crow Bridge, they're there just to enjoy, to spend a day, not to spend a night. Bring your stuff with you, take your stuff when you go home. And we've been able to satisfy the needs, both the locals and the visitors that have been there. We're now getting a group that expect to have staff, to expect to have large numbers of washrooms and eateries and various things there. And in some cases, the ability of the Crow Valley, for example, with cuts in funding and other demands, makes it very difficult to provide those services. So I guess if the province is looking at any ways to support, it's to be able to give those authorities, as well as the municipality that does have some agreements with the Conservation Authority to participate in providing those, some ability to access funding for those resources, that we can get them in place, because I know they've discovered Trent Hills and they're going to be back. And whether it's at Ranny Gorge, Healy Falls, Crow Bridge, they're going to be there. They're lining the rivers, the riverbanks and the streams, and they're looking for green space. And we're very strapped in being able to provide those kinds of services. So anything that can be helped that way would definitely be of an advantage.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and appreciate your leadership on behalf of small CAs. And I again appreciate you getting involved in Finance Committee and making constructive suggestions and constructive feedback. I think there were important measures made in CA reform that has its genesis in an increasing dichotomy between what I'm hearing on Main Street and what you hear on Bay Street. Main Street from farmers, from local folks, and I'm sure you've all heard it, that, it's taken years. The CAs are wading into things that they never really should have waded into, and it's a real barrier and inhibitor. And municipalities feeling handcuffed by that, despite that it's supposed to be an advisory body, but they play a really important role. And so I think first and foremost, there's not a cookie cutter approach, one size fits all for CAs. And I think you rightly have been a strong voice for smaller CAs and the role that they play. And I agree with you. And I think that discussion is one that's happening. I know you recently wrote about ensuring smaller CAs have a voice at the table. So I fully support you in that. And I do think that the point that I'd like to see is that municipalities know exactly what the costs are. These are taxpayer dollars. If it's programming that benefits the municipality, if it's programming that you as a duly elected council want to see with growing tourism here, then, just put it to council so you know exactly what it's going for. That's, again, a measure in the CA reform, just clear, open, and transparent. And then you're able to sort of say, you know what, we really want to support that. And that's on top of, your core management of water, watershed and the important and critical role that they play there. So I think going forward, without question, CAs play a critical role, zeroing in on the critical role that they do play, understanding that some of the, the maybe golf course management that some of the larger ones are doing in GTA, that's not what they're doing out here. And that is acknowledged by government, and we've had some good consultations there. But to your point about, I think the silver lining to COVID has been people have really started to venture out here. And it's a growing dichotomy. The same people that call me saying, don't treat us one size fits all, are the same people who will call literally 2 days later and say, why haven't you locked us down? I saw someone from Toronto. And it's, it's sort of stereotyping what does a Toronto person look like? Maybe it's, I don't know what that might be, but if it's someone that parks in the middle of the trail, as you said, Bob, we know it's a Toronto person doing that. So it's not a local. So there is that challenge, and it's a bit of a catch-22 that the Premier deals with on a daily basis. And we try and strike that balance. So to your point about the role that CAs play in delivering critical programming that people come to expect now when they come for a slice of rural Ontario and the outdoors, I would like to connect with you offline on that in the coming days. I tried calling you this morning, actually, on that.
Well, I have a really good excuse that we've moved and we're dealing with the technology of transferring from one system to another. So yeah, I'll be in touch.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Kathy.
Okay. Anyone else? Well, David, we've used a bit more of your time than allotted, but I really do appreciate your being here. I've had the good fortune of attending a couple of great announcements in the county over the last couple of months regarding, housing for our seniors and new builds that will really help out the community. So I'm glad to be able to do that, and I look forward to your future messages of support. And thank you again for being here.
Thank you. Thanks very much for having me, everyone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, I'll read the resolution. Be resolved that the verbal information presented by David Piccini, MPP for Northumberland, Peterborough South, read the Ontario Budget 2021, be received for information. Can I get a mover and seconder, please? Moved by Ken, seconded by Rose. Would you call the question, please, Doug?
Councillor Tully?
Yes.
Councillor Bratney? You're on mute, Councillor Bratney. Councillor English?
Yes.
Councillor Kelleher-McLennan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Metcalf,
Yes.
Councillor Redden,
Yes.
Councillor Bradney, I still see you're on mute. Mayor Crate,
Yes.
we will say it's carried by 6, Your Worship, because Councillor Bradney wasn't able to unmute.
Okay. Okay, we're going back to the the beginning. We have the minutes of the council meeting held on March the 16th, 2021. Be resolved that the minutes of council meeting held on March the 16th, 2021 be received and adopted as presented or amended. Mover and seconder for that, please. Moved by Rick, seconded by Kathy. Any questions? Would you call the question, please, Doug?
Councillor English,
Yes.
Councillor Kelleher McLennan,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Metcalf,
Yes.
Councillor Redden,
Yes.
Councillor Tully,
Yes.
Councillor Bratney,
Yes.
Mayor Crate,
Yes.
carried by 7, Your Worship.
Thank you. We have minutes of the Heritage Advisory Committee meeting held on January 27th, 2021 and March the 24th, 2021. We have 3 motions. We resolved that the minutes of the Heritage Advisory Committee meeting held on January the 27th, 2021 and March the 20.
Oh,
I don't have a date.
my apologies. 24th, Your Worship.
March the 24th, 2021 be received. Mover and seconder for that, please. Kathy, Mike, thank you. Call the question, please, Doug.
Councillor Redden,
Yes.
Councillor Tully,
Yes.
Councillor Bratney,
Yes.
Councillor English,
Yes.
Councillor Kelleher McLennan,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Metcalf,
Yes.
Mayor Crate,
Yes,
carried by 7, Your Worship.
thank you. Motion number 2, be resolved that pursuant to Heritage Advisory Committee motion number HAC-210127-4, that the Masonry Restoration Guidelines dated September 2019 be adopted as the municipal guidelines for the repair of masonry and stone buildings, which are designated under the Ontario Heritage Act within the municipality of Trent Hills. Can I get a mover and seconder for that, please? Moved by Mike, second by Rose. Any questions? Mike?
Thank you, Your Worship. I think that's a really good document. We ran into that having to do historical masonry when we redid a restaurant a few years back. Is there any spot in here or any consideration for a list of recommended historical masonry contractors? Because they're very different than just commercial masonry contractors. I don't know. I know we try to limit ourselves to that sort of thing, but is there a list of suggested contractors they can go to for historical masonry?
Jim?
Through you, Your Worship. We don't have a list. We're trying to develop information and ideas for contractors. We want our homeowners to be able to seek out multiple quotes, but we do know of companies that have greater expertise, so we often make sure they can at least talk to them.
Thanks.
Kathy?
I just want to recognize that the guidelines were really, a lot of the work was done on the guidelines and researched by one of our committee members, Eric Buss, who's been working with Jim and the rest of the committee to make sure they're in place, particularly because of work he's been doing on his own home. But I didn't know whether Jim wanted to comment any more on that, but it definitely, it is something that we see a lot of interest now on the committee members in bringing these forward so that we do have guidelines that others can use.
Jim?
Just briefly, Your Worship, yes, Eric did a lot of work because he was developing a restoration program for his own house, which is brick. And he was able to find this through other municipalities, and we've added in elements from Trent Hills. And we hope to work on further guidelines around windows and other aspects of heritage buildings.
Thank you. Okay. Would you call the question, please, Doug?
Deputy Mayor Metcalf?
Yes.
Councillor Redden?
Yes.
Councillor Tully?
Yes.
Councillor Bratney?
Yes.
Councillor English?
Yes.
Councillor Kelleher McLennan?
Yes.
Mayor Crate?
Yes.
Carried by 7, Your Worship.
Thank you. There are no public hearings.
Oh, Your Worship, there's one more motion.
Sorry.
Number 3.
Oh, sorry. I got a check mark there too quick, apparently. Be it resolved that pursuant to Heritage Advisory Committee motion number HAC 210324-3, that the Heritage Grant Program grant application from Eric and Carla Buss, read the chimney repairs at 308 Grand Road, Camelford, be approved in the amount of $3,014. Can I get a mover and seconder for that, please?
Move. Move, Bob.
Oh, seconded by Gene. Thanks, Gene. I don't have your picture, so you'll have to speak up, or if you're going to second something. So we have mover and a seconder. Any discussion? Mike?
Thank you, Your Worship. Jim, could you remind me, I just don't know, what's the annual budget for the Heritage Grant for this type of work?
So we carry an amount in the budget, and applications are 50% of the work proposed for original elements, up to $5,000. So far, we've maybe had 1 year when we've had 2 applications. It hasn't been a stress for the budget.
Okay. Would you call the question, please, Doug?
Your Worship, I believe it was Councillor Redden that moved. Is
Yes.
that correct? Okay. Councillor Redden?
Yes.
Councillor Tully?
Yes.
Councillor Bratney?
Yes.
Councillor English?
Yes.
Councillor Kelleher McLennan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Metcalf?
Yes.
Mayor Crate?
Yes.
Carried by 7, Your Worship.
Thank you. There are no public hearings or public meetings, and there are no deputations. We are reports of municipal officers. We have the report for finance 2021-010, read the loan arrangement financing for LED streetlight conversion project. I'll read the resolution. Be resolved that staff report finance 2021-010 from Valerie Nesbitt, Director of Finance Treasurer, read the loan agreement for LED streetlight conversion project be received for information, and that the Director of Finance Treasurer negotiate a loan agreement with the Royal Bank of Canada that provides long-term borrowing for the LED streetlight conversion project, and that the appropriate bylaw be brought forward for Council's consideration. Can I get a mover and seconder for that, please?
I'll move.
Moved by Ken. Seconded by Mike. Any discussion? Call the question, please, Doug.
Councillor Tully?
Yes.
Councillor Bratney?
Yes.
Councillor English?
Yes.
Councillor Kelleher McLennan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Metcalf?
Yes.
Councillor Redden?
Yes.
Mayor Crate?
Yes.
Carried by 7, Your Worship.
Thank you. Report PWK 2021-11, read the 2021 supply and application of calcium chloride. Be resolved that staff report PWK 2021-11 from Neil Allenson, Manager of Roads and Urban Services, read the 2021 supply and application of calcium chloride be received for information. That the bid from Miller Paving Limited for request for quotation RFQ-PWK-CAL 2021-02 supply and application of calcium chloride 35% solution be accepted on their bid price of 0.3006 per liter plus HST. That the bid from Royal Maintenance Equipment Services for requests for quotation RFQ-PWK-CAL 2021-02 supply and application of 20% solution be accepted at their bid price of 0.1391 per liter plus HST. That all bidders are advised of Council's decision under the Manager of Roads and Urban Services signature. Can I get a mover and seconder for that, please? Moved by Rick, seconded by Rose. Any discussion?
Your worship.
Yes.
I just wondered, maybe the roads manager could tell me, was the pricing this year, was there much of an increase in pricing, or was it very small? Because I'm not sure with what's happening with pricing and things these days.
Through you, your worship, the 20% was up 1/3 of a cent per liter. And for the 35% solution, it was up 3.5 cents per liter.
Thank you.
Michael?
Thank you, your worship. If I recall correctly, when I was last at an opening, this bid opening, it seems like we have a lot less tenders being bid on. I almost think there was 10, if not 12 bids on the last one that I sat for this. I don't know whether we've seen that consistently, that we're getting less bids on tenders, or I don't know whether why or.
Through you, your worship, 2 years ago, there was 4 that bid on the 35% and 2 on the 20%. The 20% is hard for a lot of the companies because it has to be diluted, and RMES and Coburg is one of the only ones that dilute the 35%, which is a natural solution, down to the 20% that we use. And the 35%, yes, DeLee has bought a lot of the calcium competitors out. They're actually from the States. So DeLee is one of the big ones, and so is Miller.
Okay. Anyone else? Call the question, please, Doug.
Councillor English?
Yes.
Councillor Kelleher McLennan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Metcalf?
Yes.
Councillor Redden?
Yes.
Councillor Tully?
Yes.
Councillor Bratney?
Yes.
Mayor Crate?
Yes.
Carried by 7, your worship.
Thank you. We have report THF 2021-04. Read the Fire Department monthly report for February 2021. Be resolved that staff report THF 2021-04 from Tim Blake, Fire Chief. Read the Fire Department monthly report for February 2021 be received for information. Can I get a mover and seconder for that, please?
So move.
Moved by Gene, seconded by Ken. Any questions? Would you call a question, please, Doug?
Councillor Bratney?
Yes.
Councillor English?
Yes.
Councillor Kelleher McLennan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Metcalf?
Yes.
Councillor Redden?
Yes.
Councillor Tully?
Yes.
Mayor Crate?
Yes.
Carried by 7, your worship.
Thank you. Report EDC-2021-06. Request for acknowledgement of Camelford as the birthplace of Lou Marsh. Be resolved that staff report EDC-2021-06 from Kira Mees, Community Development Officer. Read the request for acknowledgement of Camelford as the birthplace of Lou Marsh be received for information, and that the consideration of a heritage awareness plaque and the possible inclusion of the Marsh family home be referred to the Heritage Advisory Committee for consideration and recommendation to council, and that the Community Development Officer develop biographical interpretive signage to be added to the Lions Gateway to honor the life and legacy of Lou Marsh. Can I get a mover and seconder for that, please? Moved by Rick.
You haven't moved that.
Oh. Okay, any discussion? Kathy?
Sorry, Your Worship, if I can. Mover and seconder, I didn't catch them both.
Rick?
Okay.
And well, Jean, the second motion.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Kathy?
Yeah, first of all, I think definitely the Heritage Advisory Committee be pleased to take this into consideration and can come up at our next meeting. And I'm sure we have some members of that committee that would be very pleased to do some more research and work with either the family or whoever is promoting this. I think it's something else that's possible as well. And it came to mind on the 13th of March, that was actually the day a year ago that we were meeting with staff. And I believe Peter came in at the last minute because at that point, council and staff, or not council, but staff were meeting about closing due to this new thing called COVID and some of the implications of that. So it's been about a year, but we were discussing the Wall of Fame in the new facility, rec facility. And I think this would be one of the names most definitely that would stand in the forefront of the name of an individual to be recognized when we start with our first list. And so I think that perhaps some communication with that committee at some point, I think they'd all be pleased to add that. So whoever is, if the community development officer wants to just put a little star beside that as well, or Peter himself with his work on the wall, that we can ensure that's taken care of and not missed. But definitely a very worthy name to start leading the charge on others in the community.
Thank you. Rick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I think it's a very, very worthy acknowledgement for Kelmford, that's for sure. And Kerry, you might have to help me out here. I think Jim Peeling was behind a lot of this, was he not? That's what I thought. And kudos to Jim for all the research and work that he's done on this to get it this far.
Thank you. Anyone else? You call the question, please, Doug.
Question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Gene.
Do we know if there are any family members in the area, or are they aware of this thought process to go forward? And do we know what where the house was that they lived in?
Kira?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. We do have the historical records from the, I believe it's a voter's roll or a census document that lists the address of the Marsh family home when Lou lived here. So we do have the address of that home. And while I haven't heard of any local family relations, I have reached out to both the Lou Marsh Foundation and the City of Toronto. Just mostly got directions to contact other people. I haven't heard any objections though. So we have done that outreach as well.
Thank you.
That's great. Call the question, please, Doug.
Councillor English?
Yes.
Councillor Kelleher McLennan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Metcalf?
Yes.
Councillor Redden?
Yes.
Councillor Tully?
Yes.
Councillor Bratney?
Yes.
Mayor Crate?
Yes.
Carried by 7, Your Worship.
Thank you. We're at report EDC 2021-07, temporary outdoor patio policy. Be resolved that staff report EDC 2021-07 from Kira Mees, Community Development Officer, read the temporary outdoor patio policy be received for information, and that the draft policy POL-ADM-010 temporary outdoor patio policy as attached to the staff report EDC 2021-07 be adopted. Do I get a mover and seconder for that, please? Ken and Rose, any discussion? Rick and then Mike.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Kira for the work behind this, Kira, because I've already been approached by a business owner on Main Street in Mork with it. It does have some interest in this, and I'm sure she'll be in contact with you. And I think it's a good idea, and I sure support it. Thank you.
And Rose, yes?
No, I didn't have my hand up for any comment. But, yeah.
That's good. Mike, thanks.
Thank you, Worship. I think this is we talked about it last year, a really important initiative to support the outside retail spaces. It attracts attention. It entices people to slow down and stop and get out and take a walk around our communities. There's still the very importance about pedestrian and traffic flow, and that'll be something that will get worked out. And it looks like it in the policy, it addresses those types of flows as well. I know this applies to hospitality and food. Is this also something that will apply to a retail situation, or is that under another program? Because I think those are also really important in this time to be able to take those retail spaces outside as well.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we did have in the pilot one approved sidewalk use, which is what we called it during the pilot, that was retail. So I don't think it's clear maybe in the policy that would be an accepted use. So I can make that change. I should also mention to council that the Chamber of Commerce would like us to have a review for like businesses to be able to contribute or make comment on this policy. And so that change could be made if you do make the decision to have that review policy in place. The Chamber suggested 28 days, which kind of coincides with the new lockdown measures. But I also suggest perhaps we could look at having it as soon as the next meeting of council, because ideally, if we could have this in place to come out of the lockdown with the policy reviewed and passed, that could probably be the best of both situations. Because I have already had several calls about this, both from people who are interested in the sidewalk use approach that Councillor Deputy Mayor Metcalf mentioned, and also restaurant spaces.
So
one more thing. Sorry, I just thought of one more thing. The other kind of clarification that I think ought to be made is in the policy, it suggests the Bridge Street is excluded from the program. But I think the clarification should be that the use of parking spots for patios was really the intention of that exclusion. So to Deputy Mayor Metcalf's point, potentially the sidewalk use could still be in place if it met the other criteria, but not use of parking spots, given that it is such a busy road and in fact a county road. So those are kind of two clarifications that could be in that policy.
So would it be advisable to pass the policy as we have it? We are having a meeting on that I'm involved in Thursday morning with the chamber, and have any revisions for the next council meeting. Would that make it any easier, Doug?
Your Worship, council has two options, well, three options. You can pass the policy as presented. You can pass the policy, and with the consent of the mover and seconder, we will adjust the motion to make the appropriate edits as identified by Kira for the retail use on sidewalks, and that the Bridge Street exclusion is only in relation to the parking spots, provided the other provisions can be met. Or a member of council may bring forward a deferral asking for this item to be deferred to the April 20th council meeting, at which time additional information could be brought forward following further input to make a decision on the policy.
Okay, Mike, and then Rose.
I would just, I would suggest that we defer it, and if it's acceptable to the mover and the seconder, with the amendments and any take it to the business community, but have it back so that we can have this ready to roll for the business community by the time the good weather comes and we can get rolling. So I would say the next meeting with all of the edits and any of commenting that has occurred. That would be my suggestion.
Great. Rose?
Thanks, Mayor Crate. Yeah, Mike hit it on the nail on the head. What I wanted to bring up was the fact that I'd like to have the time to get some more input. I'm wondering if the BIA president maybe should be involved in those meetings as well with the chamber and staff. They do deal with all the downtown businesses, etc. And in the past history, like we've always had a number of sidewalk sales, and they've been very successful, and they've helped the community and they've helped the businesses as well. So I do agree with Deputy Mayor Metcalf's suggestion of waiting as well, to get the input, but get it out there before the real warm season starts, so that the business will have more of an opportunity for an uptake on the season.
Okay. Kathy?
Well, I was just going to second, if that was Mike's motion, I was going to second that if you needed a seconder. I think the optics of moving forward when we know that the chamber or other businesses are interested in giving some comments, I think we are not as good as leaving it and seeing what they have to provide. There may be some other choices that come forward that perhaps we haven't looked at. I think what we have is really good, and they should get it immediately to review, give them lots of time to prepare and think about what's going to take place. And I do concur with the issues of making sure the traffic flow, having been in other communities where people do a great job of fencing in the areas and confining the clientele. Many cases, it's the people outside of that area that sort of straggle along or speak to them or crowd along the sidewalks that cause the issues. And I think we need to make sure there's no problems that way. But I think definitely they're in it with us, and they certainly deserve to give their opinion. So you need a seconder. Otherwise, if Councillor McLennan has seconded that, that's fine. I'm for deferral.
So it's who are the mover and seconders, Doug, for that?
For a deferral, Your Worship, it's the Deputy Mayor Metcalf and either Councillor Kelleher McLennan or Councillor Redden. It would be a deferral of the report to the April 20th council meeting to provide the opportunity to obtain additional input from interested parties.
So that would give them 2 weeks to do that.
That would give them 1 week, Your Worship. We post the agenda the Friday before, and our cutoff for staff reports is Tuesday at 4:30. I think it's at 4:30.
So, well, the council, the chamber is having Thursday morning. We're having a meeting with them, so that should look after getting some input, and then Rose is on the BIA, so she could contact them to see if they have anything they'd like to add to it. So we're all in on this one?
So the motion currently on the floor is for the deferral, Your Worship.
Yes. Rick, you had
a couple things. I moved the original motion, and I'm fine with the deferral as long as that's not hurting your progress, Kira, with anything.
No, it will be fine, especially given the current state. And I do the Chamber of Commerce will be able to assist in terms of outreach to the membership. So we will, I'm sure we'll get timely input from the members. And I did just hear from the Chamber of Commerce that they're quite happy with the notion of coming back at the 20th. So we'll have enough time to get input and have the revisions ready for you then.
Just my only second comment would be I heard, the chamber might be involved, the BIA might be involved, and I've already been approached from a business to work with, so I'm wondering about the WBA as well, Kara.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, I have outreach planned for them based on tonight's meeting, so I will do that outreach.
Thank you very much.
There's somebody in Hastings that
On it.
Good. Because if not, our deputy mayor is going to be right after you, Kara. And he knows.
Okay. So would you call the question, please, Doug?
On the deferral, Deputy Mayor Metcalf.
Yes.
Councillor Redden.
Yes.
Councillor Tully.
Yes.
Councillor Bratney.
Yes.
Councillor English.
Yes.
Councillor Kelleher McLennan.
Yes.
Mayor Crate.
Yes.
The deferral is carried by 7, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. We're at report Rec-2021-01. Read the Rotary Club. Oh yeah, and Ken has turned off his mic. Okay.
There we go.
Yeah, okay. The Rotary Club of Calford Canteen and Washroom. Be resolved that staff report Rec-2021-01 from Peter Burnett, Community Recreation Officer. Read the Rotary Club of Calford Canteen and Washroom be received for information that the municipality relinquish all interest and control of the canteen and washroom portion of the Rotary Hall building to the Rotary Club of Camelford, and that the Rotary Club of Camelford is advised of Council's decision under the Community Recreation Officer signature. Can I get a mover and seconder for that, please?
That's all moved.
Moved by Gene, seconded by Mike. Any discussion? Rose?
Just a quick question. So will there be access to the washrooms? Do we know, especially when we get through COVID and we reopen the splash pads and the skate park there? Or is that going to be just, are they looking at using it for private, combining it into the building for private use?
Peter, you're muted.
Oh, I'm not.
Yep. There you go.
No.
No?
I don't understand. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, I can now.
Maybe it's my headphones. Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's the intention at this point that the Rotary Club would be utilizing the washroom for the public when they have staff in the canteen. It's the same model at this point as what the municipality did for many years, but this will give them the freedom to make any adjustments that they see fit in the canteen and the washroom as well. The municipality has had the washroom closed there for a number of years due to vandalism. So the interest in the proximity of the Rotary Club hopefully will help mitigate some of those challenges that the municipality faced. We'll still be putting in, if we're permitted to do so, with the health restrictions, a blue loo at that facility where we have before, provided the cleaning schedules can be manageable by municipal staff.
Thank you.
Mike?
Thank you, Your Worship. As with anything that sort of sits unused for a period of time, is there any financial investment that's going to have to be put into the municipality, or will the Rotary be taking over the facility sort of as is and go from there?
Through you, Your Worship, great question. We've been in there a number of times throughout the time we've had it closed. The canteen itself is fine. It's just dirty from not being used. The municipality will be having the door locks replaced at in the washroom due to the vandalism. All the locks have been smashed by vandals. So we have money we have a small $250 or $200 budget for the canteen. So that'll exhaust that repair, and then we'll hand it over to the Rotary Club from there.
Thanks, Peter.
Anyone else? Call the question, please, Doug.
Bratney?
Yes.
Councillor English?
Yes.
Councillor Kelleher-McLennan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Metcalf?
Yes.
Councillor Redden?
Yes.
Mayor Crate?
Yes.
Carried by 6, Your Worship.
Thank you. Advise Mr. Tully to turn on his camera again. There he is. Thank you. Updates of council. Start with Kathy.
Oh, Your Worship.
Yes.
We have skipped over the CAO's report on Crow Bridge.
I just can't get away with anything today. Okay. Well, so report CAO-2021-05 Crow Bridge Conservation Area Operating Agreement. Be it resolved that staff report CAO-2021-06 from Lynn Phillips, Chief Administrative Officer, Crow Bridge Conservation Area Operating Agreement be received for information, and that Municipality of Trent Hills agrees to extend the current operating agreement for Crow Bridge Conservation Area expiring on March the 31st, 2021 for 1 year to March the 30th, 2022. The Crow Bridge Conservation Area remain closed to the public for the 2021 season, that the contribution of 50% of the cost of the dam safety assessment study be provided to Crow Valley Conservation Authority to an upset limit of $10,000 in the event that is required, that the treasurer transfer $5,000 from the Crow Bridge Park Reserve and $5,000 from the General Services Reserve, if required, to fund the dam safety assessment at the Crow Bridge Conservation Area. I'm sorry. Too funny. That the Crow Valley Conservation Authority be advised of council's decision under the Chief Administrative Officer's signature. Can I get a mover and seconder for that, please? Moved by Kathy, seconded by Ken. Discussion. Michael?
Thank you, Your Worship. I think, I think extending to the 1 year term to get some of these issues figured out and finalized that we need to. I know we spoke about being able to use this area as an appropriate recreation area for the municipality, but there's a lot of work to do to get it to that point. And I know that both Peter and Lynn have been doing a lot of researching and looking into what needs to be done. And it's definitely a partnership with the Crow Valley Conservation Authority that needs to be strong in order to get that done. And the biggest hurdle coming from the Conservation Authority is the safety assessment that we need to get done on that. We're hopefully that they will be able to come through with the funding from the province to be able to assist with that. But I'm also of the mind that sometimes you have to spend a little to get the end results of what we're looking for. So I'm glad that we do have some of those reserve funds that we're able to use to put towards the study, and hopefully when we get the result, we'll be able to keep going forward to produce the type of recreation area that it can be with all the safety nets in place. So that's my view. I think it's a real gem that we can have there, and having it closed for this year to be able to take those safety precautions, I think is a prudent step to get to where we want to be.
Thank you. Anyone else? Kathy, and then Ken.
Well, thanks, Mike, for your comments, because I think they're well taken and show that you certainly understand what we've been dealing with. The issue of the WECI funding for that assessment has been sort of a sore case with the Conservation Authority for a number of years. We've applied and we haven't ranked high enough to achieve the funding. So the fact the municipality is prepared to assist us is really great, and certainly supports what we think is an important answer or some important information in where we go forward with the Crow Bridge, simply because we may have to do something with that weir, which may entirely change the way the river runs and the kind of current or the kind of facility that's there in the water. And we need to know if, as a municipality, we're going to spend a fair amount of money on that. I guess I spoke with Tim Pittock this afternoon, and definitely we are, the authority is very appreciative of the work that was done last year. And we know how difficult it is for those around the area not to have access to it. It's a beautiful spot. It's going to make it very difficult this summer. But to leave it open, knowing all of the challenges that we had last year, I think we've got some answers, and it's a step that has to be taken. And hopefully there will be some support in the future. And some of this is what sort of prompted me to make my comments earlier to the member as well, that these are the kinds of things that the Conservation Authority and municipalities can partner in, and we do need to find funding to make them successful. And now that we've been discovered, the challenge is to do that. So I hope that Council will support this, and we'll move forward and get those answers as soon as possible.
Thank you. Ken?
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess just to clarify, being closed for this season, does that mean fencing will be in place, or just how it will be closed is my question.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, the fencing would be similar to last year. We'd have to secure the perimeter of the park. Otherwise, it's very difficult and impossible to keep people out for the years. So that would be a cost that would be incurred by the municipality. But similar to last year, it would go towards probably the 2021 allocation of the COVID funds that we receive.
Thank you. Rick?
Yeah, just quickly, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I thought it was a really good report, really good planning, Lynn. And just your comment on, Kathy, on the WECI funding. It's kind of funny that the Lower Trent have one dam and they were eligible or got WECI funding for the Warwick Dam safety assessment. And I know the Crow, they must have 15 dams and 14, sorry, I was one out. Anyway, I find it curious as to how come you can't get it, and maybe a phone call to our local MPP might not hurt.
Thank you.
Yes.
Anyone else? Call the question, please, Doug.
Councillor Redden?
Yes.
Councillor Tully?
Yes.
Councillor Bratney?
Yes.
Councillor English?
Yes.
Councillor Kelleher-McLennan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Metcalf?
Yes.
Mayor Crate?
Yes.
Carried by 7, Your Worship.
Thank you. We are now at updates of members of council. Kathy?
Okay. Well, first of all, I'd just like to attest to the fact that the current real estate market in this community is very hot. And for that reason, I'm advising everybody, don't think about selling unless you've got somewhere to go, because there's a lot of interest in this community and a lot of people taking advantage of that. And as you know, we did make a move from one side of the river to the other, and we're very nicely in a home with a garage full of boxes to be unpacked. But it's nice to find some spots in the community and be able to see it from a different point of view. Very quiet Easter, and I think rightly so in the community. A lot of people did observe the shutdowns. Yesterday, I attended a COVID clinic in Madoc with my husband and saw a lot of people traveling to be vaccinated, which is very I think is an excellent sign that those in this area are doing their part. And I did view what was taking place down at the fire hall, and want to commend those fellows for giving up their digs for a while. It must have been very difficult to open up and shut up every day and to have it properly cleaned and disinfected. And yet I think the reception from the community was fabulous to see what they've done. I did sit in on one of the calls. I don't know if any of you did as well, between the medical officer of health, the MPP, and our hospital CEOs. And I found them very beneficial. If any of you did sit in on all or part of them, just the information that was provided to those who were on the calls. You could either ask questions or email or just sit and listen. And it cleared up a lot of concern and misinformation. And I think that's one thing, hopefully, that individuals in this community are able to get information that they need. And I did note that we now have a new medical officer of health as of this weekend in HKPR, and hopefully she will be as proactive as the current temporary one has been. I think we've been very fortunate in some of the things that they've brought forward. And I just also like to encourage you, as the increments go down by 5 years and 5 years and 5 years, that I have signed up for my vaccination as well. And I would urge everyone that's either here tonight or listening to make sure that you check out regularly. It's easy to do so online. And I think there's a little bit of a relief when you know that you've got a date signed up. So that's my report.
Thank you. Michael.
Thank you, Worship. I attended the RTO8 Summit for the Trent Severn Trailtown program. I was a guest panelist at the summit. There was 2 panelists from Parks Canada, one from their marketing department, and myself. Discussions were held about the Trent Severn Waterway, the partnerships with tourism, tourism challenges during COVID-19, and business participation opportunities. So it was a good 2-hour little summit on the Trent Severn Trailtown program, and I think it's something that's going to really take hold and go forward. So hopefully there's a lot of interest from businesses, because that will really spark what the best part of that program will be when people stop in the different communities. I was also took part in a chamber pilot project, Welcoming and Inclusive Communities workshop, and it took a very overview look at what an inclusive community entails. So it was a good start from the chamber into inclusive communities, and hopefully there'll be more to come from Nancy and her team. That's everything.
Thank you. Rosemary?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not a whole lot to report. Did participate in the Trent Drinking Water Source Protection Committee meeting on last week, and we're going to be holding the Municipal Working Group meeting on Thursday. So there was a number of things that will go down to the Municipal Working Group for discussion regarding, there's a lot of issues around COVID-19 and being able to follow through with some of the plans and the policies, and especially with the risk management officials and meeting with people who they are doing risk management plans with. I did have, as Jim's gone, but I did have a email from Ann Anderson regarding a project that Green Canada started a couple of years ago, and it's called Deep Pave Paradise. And so the group is looking for old parking lots, small, whatever, whatever size at all that the municipality might have that they're not using, that they would remove the old pavement, and they would turn it into a garden, and maybe potentially with a bench for people. And they're looking like in the downtown areas of the 3 urban centers. So I have another meeting coming up with Anne on that, and Jim has been working with us as well. So we did find one in Calfra, but I haven't had an opportunity yet to go and drive around Hastings and Warkworth. Now, I think the group from the Lower Trent has been out and been to all three communities, but I think it's a good project. It's something to help enhance our urban centers, and they have a team that come in and work with us if we have volunteers that want to help out. So we'll see if it gets off the ground here or not. I hope it does. I know we do need our parking, our parking that we have, and especially in the urban centers. But it's surprising some of the spots that they found that were just small pieces of unused old pavement. And if you go online, there's one, I believe it's with the canoe company in Peterborough, and they turned a little space into a beautiful little park. And so that's, other than that, that's about all I have to report. I have been trying to get in for a vaccine, so I'm very jealous of those who have at least got your name on the list. I spent an hour and a half this morning hitting redial, and there was no way. It just kept coming up that they were overwhelmed with calls, and there was no way of getting in. So if you guys have any secrets to that, please send me an email. Let me know. I'll be glad to get it. Thank you.
Okay. Rick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nothing much. Like Deputy Mayor Metcalf, I attended the Chamber workshop for inclusiveness in Municipality Trent Hills. Very interesting comments, and I did enjoy participating in it. And that's it.
Thank you. Gene?
Not too much to report, really, but one thing I did sit through was the presentation by the county planner, Nick McDonald and Dwayne Campbell on the natural heritage systems, Northumberland. And it's going to be rebroadcast tomorrow morning on radio at 9 o'clock from 9 to 10 again. Not much change maybe from what was presented before, but maybe it will be. I plan on listening to it. I'm going to Trenton at that same time frame to get my shot in the arm. This heritage woodlock thing is creating some interest that some farm people think enough's enough already, but one thing I tried to, like, the verbiage just rolls out of these two gentlemen, like quoting from a Bible. It's, they just know the stuff so much that it's hard for a layperson to follow them on some of the phrases that they use. They talk about a 20 hectares to woods would be unaffected. So that sounds like quite a chunk of the woods. But anyway, I'm going to endure to listen again tomorrow. And on Thursday, Rick and I have Lower Trent Conservation. And I guess that's about all. We're covering some questions from some ratepayers that some are happy and some are not happy. So that's it.
Thank you. Ken.
Thank you, Your Worship. I too sat in the same presentation as Councillor Bratney talked about, and certainly they had all the buzzwords, but it was very interesting. I would like to see how the county overlay affects Trent Hills when it's all said and done. I spent 4 shifts volunteering at the vaccination center at the fire hall. We were working with the 80+ people, and I must say that Fire Chief Blake and his crew did a great job of getting the cars parked, getting the seniors across the road safely. We didn't lose anybody, and it went really, really smooth. And it was amazed at the number of people who come in, and when they have to sit for 15 minutes after shot, looked around and got nothing but great compliments on the fire hall and how great it looked. And many people were happy just to be inside and see what was inside. So anyways, I signed up for 3 more shifts the next couple of weeks, but Rosemary, got to go online. Works like a charm. I got 3 booked, no problem. So
I tried that this morning, and twice I couldn't get in, so I finally gave up. But I'll keep trying. Don't worry.
All righty.
Get it one way or the other.
Thank you. Yes. Well, I actually had put my name in at Shoppers, and they sent me an email saying that I could sign up there. For me, a couple of things. As I said during the presentation with our MPP, I was in Coburg when they announced the new beds, which will really add. I mean, when you think that the Golden Plough is going to have another, I think they're going to have another 48. They're having a bunch more beds, and this other one, which is downtown Coburg, is 59 beds, and it's going to go to 192. I mean, they're going to have to move it to a different location. So, you know, quite a few beds coming in there for seniors. Also, kudos to Tim. I did one volunteer shift at the clinic, and as Ken said, you know, people were very, very happy with how it was set up, and the guys did a great job. And there was many compliments on the building itself. So I thought it really is a feather in our cap that it went so smoothly, and hopefully I'll get to volunteer again. I know John's being nice to me because he thinks I'm terribly busy, but I told him that I would love to do another shift. There are some talks with the ETOA made a big announcement last week on the trails. I have hopefully setting up a meeting with the ETOA and the Northumberland ATV people to try and work out an agreement that will give them a one pass deal for all of Northumberland, which would include the trail from basically from Hastings to Horde Station, which right now they have to actually get a day pass for me because of the way things are. So I'm working on that. And other than that, I'm done. So we'll go to the consent agenda. Lower Trent Conservation Authority, their annual report of 2020 and the minutes of the Lower Trent Conservation Board of Directors meeting held on February the 11th, 2021. Be resolved that the staff recommendations with respect to consent agendas 11A and 11B be adopted as printed. Can I get a mover and seconder for that, please? Moved by Ken, second by Rose. Any comments? Call the question, please, Doug.
Councillor Tully?
Yes.
Councillor Bratney?
Yes.
Councillor English?
Yes.
Councillor Kelleher McLennan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Metcalf?
Yes.
Councillor Redden?
Yes.
Mayor Crate?
Yes.
7, Your Worship.
Thank you. We're now at communications and petitions. The correspondence for the fire safety grant announcement. Be resolved that the correspondence dated March the 11th, 2021 from John Pegg, Ontario Fire Marshal, read the fire safety grant announcement be received, and that Council of Municipality of Trent Hills approves the acceptance of the fire safety grant, and that the appropriate bylaw be brought forward for Council's consideration, and that the Ontario Fire Marshal be advised of Council's decision under the fire chief's signature. Could I get a mover and seconder for that, please? Moved by Rick. Seconded by Kathy. Any questions? To call a question, please, Doug.
Councillor English?
Yes.
Councillor Kelleher McLennan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Metcalf?
Yes.
Councillor Redden?
Yes.
Councillor Tully?
Yes.
Councillor Bratney?
Yes.
Mayor Crate?
Yes.
Carried by 7, Your Worship.
Thank you. Correspondence for the OPP Detachment Board Framework. Be resolved that the correspondence, excuse me, correspondence dated March the 18th, 2021 from Sylvia Jones, Solicitor General, read the OPP Detachment Board Framework be received, and that the municipality work with the Northumberland Detachment Commander and Northumberland municipalities on a proposal for an OPP Detachment Board. Can I get a mover and seconder for that, please? Moved by Ken. Seconded by Mike. Any questions? Mike?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just wondering if there's been any discussion at the Police Services Board on this topic, on the framework at all, that they might have information for the council.
Your Worship, the Police Service Board have been sharing emails back and forth. One of the other Police Services Board inside of the county was hosting something for the various Police Service Board chairs to review the previous proposal. It is possible that the local police service boards may make recommendation to council, but it will be council that makes the final determination on the level of representation that the municipality would hope to see in an OPP detachment board. And that will go forward to work with the other member municipalities in the board to come to an agreement, and then the public and provincial representation can be looked at based on those numbers.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ken?
I just want to thank Doug for, he has spent a fair number of time on this recently, and I like the path we have going forward, Doug. And I think it's great that something will come back to council for approval.
Thank you. Mike?
Sorry, just to follow up, I know that it says that the completed proposals are to be submitted to the ministry by June 7th. Doug, do you know if there's a date that they're looking to make sure have this completed by? Or is there not really one out there yet?
Through your worship, there are the dates in that wonderful flow chart from the Solicitor General following the letter. They're looking to have everything, I believe it's the fall of 2021, in place for 2022. I did speak with the detachment commander, Inspector Martin, with respect to this, and he has confirmed he is the liaison to the groups, but he is a resource more than anything else in this process. So the municipalities that will be participating will need to identify what their ideal representation is, and then work together to come up with something. If our police service board is to make a recommendation, we may need to look at advancing the meeting date of our police service board, because it is currently scheduled for May 24th, I think. It's late May is their current scheduled meeting. So if that's the case and they wish to make a recommendation to council, we will need to look at amending the date of their meeting.
Michael?
I think that's probably the route that we would be appropriate to take. Wouldn't it be, from the Police Services Board recommendation?
Through your worship, I can identify that what the Police Service Board, at least the Trent Hills Police Service Board, they will be looking back at the document that was prepared, I believe, in around 2017 for a possible detachment board as a starting point for any recommendation that may come forward.
Thank you.
Okay. Call the question, please, Doug.
Councillor Tully?
Yes.
Councillor Bratney?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Councillor English?
Yes.
Councillor Kelleher-McLennan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Metcalf?
Yes.
Councillor Redden?
Yes.
Mayor Craig?
Yes.
Carried by 7, your worship.
Thank you. We're now at correspondence. A request for exemption of bylaw number 2021-006, refreshment vehicle bylaw. I'm wondering, since this has come up, apparently Rick has advised me that one of the owners of the truck has passed away last week. Is that right, Rick?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, that's correct.
And secondly, I did receive some concerns about safety last week, and I because it's at 29 and 30, I passed those on to the county, and Denise did come back to me today saying that she was hoping to hold a site meeting with the owners and somebody from Trent Hills to look at this. So should I read this resolution, or should I be seeking a deferral?
Your worship, I will leave that up to council. Staff were unaware that one of the owners had passed away. We were in contact with them, I believe, early last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a shame. I have seen the concerns that were submitted. And as you stated, is a county intersection in both regards. And I know the concerns had to do with the parking of vehicles accessing the refreshment vehicle. I can say that staff had reached out to the County of Northumberland, had received correspondence from Northumberland for approval because of the location. That was supportive. There is parking on site. The parking with people on the road, I understand the challenges that poses. I don't know that that is something that the operator of the refreshment vehicle has any control over.
Thank you. Mike, and then Rick.
Thank you, Your Worship. I maybe, if it's possible, entertain accepting this exemption with the consideration that as long as the site inspection from the county and municipality comes back satisfactory, that we can keep going ahead. If there's issues with the site inspection, those would need to be addressed prior to it being accepted. I don't know if that's feasible for you, Doug. I just know that depending on when they are looking to operate, it could be time sensitive.
Thank you. Rick?
Yeah, I agree with Mike as well. And as you know, Mr. Mayor, I did make the comment to you where I have seen tractor trailers on 30 as well. And just a request, I was thinking about asking Northumberland County about putting no parking signs on 30 by that right-hand turn lane because it has happened. There's no question about it. That's kind of a high accident risk intersection as it is. And I think at very least that we should send that request to the county. But I certainly am glad there's going to be a site visit there as well.
The county has sent in their approval. I don't believe it was Denise, but when staff reached out, the county did approve the use of that corner as they historically have done. Given the conversation that is going on and the recent news with respect to one of the owners, we could look at granting it just for this year, subject to confirmation from the County of Northumberland with respect to the concerns which have been raised. And we would strike out the ongoing at this point. So we'd only look at it for this year. That would allow them to at least function this year if everything works out with the county.
Okay. Kathy?
I would support that motion and move it.
Second?
I would second.
Second, Jean, do you have a question, Mike? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. I'd just like to touch on Counsel English point about signage. Perhaps is that something that we can address and suggest at that area? It should be something that's relatively easy to complete at a county level. that would help with safety. Even if the truck wasn't there, that, like Rick said, it is a bad corner for sight sometimes, and people coming around there fairly quickly. So it would be, to me, it would be wise to put that suggestion into the county for some signage, if it's possible.
Kathy?
Yeah, just to follow up on what Mike said, is there not, or should there not be some kind of an ongoing rule of traffic that no parking within an intersection like that? I mean, maybe it's in the traffic rules, but in this case, I certainly think the county could put some signs, or somebody could do signage. To me, that's a separate issue. It is connected, but it's another issue. And we probably have some other corners similar to that, where we see parking where there shouldn't be parking. And I think we all know, or stopping where they shouldn't be stopping. But in this case, I would think it's a violation just to be stopped that close to a corner. So anyway, I moved it because I think it's only appropriate that we go forward. I think in a time like this, less fuss and bother for the family. We can certainly reword this and make it appropriate for the time.
Doug?
Your Worship, based on the conversation, I have reworded the motion as follows. Be it resolved that the correspondence dated March 30th, 2021 from Dion Nichols and Denise Gold, Jay's Place Chip Truck, request for exemption to bylaw number 2021-006, Refreshment Vehicle Bylaw be received. That, in recognition of the historical use by Jay's Place Chip Truck, an exemption to section 7.1 of bylaw number 2021-006, Refreshment Vehicle Bylaw, be granted for Jay's Place Chip Truck to continue to operate at the corner of County Road 30 and County Road 29 for 2021, subject to a satisfactory site inspection by the County of Northumberland and Municipality of Trent Hills, and that the applicant be advised of Council's decision under the Director of Legislative Services clerk's signature.
Okay, so Kathy, would you move that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and Jean, you seconded it?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I heard about the person's passing this afternoon, and apparently they had this over Easter weekend.
Yeah, I just phoned Rick to discuss the situation, and he advised me the gentleman passed away. So that was yesterday. Anyone else to call a question, please, Doug?
Councillor Redden?
Yes.
Councillor Tully?
Yes.
Councillor Bratney?
Yes.
Councillor English?
Yes.
Councillor Kelleher McLennan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Metcalf?
Yes.
Mayor Crate?
Yes.
Carried by 7, Your Worship.
Thank you. We now go to the bylaws. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2021-32, bylaw 2021-034, bylaw number 2021-036 be read a first, second, third time, passed and properly signed and sealed by the clerk and mayor. I'll get a mover and seconder for that, please. Moved by Rose, seconded by Mike. Any discussion? Call the question, please, Doug.
Councillor Kelleher McLennan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Metcalf?
Yes.
Councillor Redden?
Yes.
Councillor Tully?
Yes.
Councillor Bratney?
Yes.
Councillor English?
Yes.
Mayor Crate?
Yes.
Carried by 7, Your Worship.
Thank you. We have no notice of motions. The confirmation bylaw be resolved that bylaw number 2021-035, a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the county council of the council meeting held on Tuesday, April the 6th, 2021, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, properly signed and sealed by the clerk and mayor. Mover and seconder, please.
So moved.
I'll move.
Moved by Ken, seconded by Jean. Call the question, please, Doug.
Councillor Tully?
Yes.
Councillor Bratney?
Yes.
Councillor English,
Yes.
Councillor Kelleher McLennan,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Metcalf,
Yes.
Councillor Redden,
Yes.
Mayor Craig.
Yes.
Carried by 7, Your Worship.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn. Mike and Rick. Call the question, please, Doug.
Deputy Mayor Metcalf,
Yes.
Councillor Redden,
Yes.
Councillor Tully,
Yes.
Councillor Bratney,
Yes.
Councillor English,
Yes.
Councillor Kelleher McLennan,
Yes.
Mayor Craig.
Yes.
We are adjourned at 7:49, Your Worship.
Thank you very much.
Just stop the live stream and the recording.